Hamlet is taking out the trash.
Stay thy hand, fair prince.
Who said I'm fair?
There's nothing quite like a good action movie, full of guns, explosions, car chases, fight scenes, and lots of men. Yeah, I know a girl made it in there, but she's outnumbered 14-1.
Never tell me the odds.
Action movies are infamously dominated by men. In fact, IMDb gave us a ranking of the top 25 greatest action stars, and only one of them was a female. That was Sigourney Weaver at number 13. You might ask, how did they quantify the making of a great action hero to give us this list? And I can tell you that I have absolutely no idea. But the point is, online movie sites that most people trust and use frequently, like IMDb, are ranking mostly men in these lists of action heroes. Before we move on, let's be clear. Men occupying a majority of the lead roles in action movies is just not groovy.
Not groovy at all!
But it's not a lost cause, and Hollywood is changing. NBC News reported that of the top 100 grossing movies of 2018, 40 had women in central roles as either the main character or the co-lead, which is 8 more than the previous year in 2017 and 20 more than in 2007. In fact, it is the highest percentage of female-driven films we've seen in the last 12 years.
That is amazing.
While this is a great statistic and hopefully signifies change in the film industry as a whole, I still notice some weird trends happening with female cinematic archetypes. I've observed that most action movies that star a female lead still limit the character's feminist potential, and sometimes even do more damage than good. From what I've seen, female action heroes usually fit into one of these 4 categories. They're made more masculine. Not only do many action movies try to diminish the femininity of the lead character, but sometimes they dehumanize her entirely. Or if they are feminine, they're motivated mostly by maternal or nurturing instincts, they're limited in fighting almost exclusively other women, or they're hypersexualized in a voyeuristic male gaze kind of way. In this video, we'll take a look at some examples of female action leads who fit into these categories, and we'll talk about how they limit the potential of a strong feminine character. Then, I'll make the argument that there has really only been one successful movie in recent years that had a female action lead who isn't masculinized, isn't motivated by maternal instincts, fights women and men without discretion, and isn't sexualized. You'll have to be patient though, because I'm not going to reveal what that movie is until the very end. So stay tuned.
Let us begin.
First off, let's take a look at how some movies make female leads more masculine. For this, we're going to take a look at George Miller's masterpiece, Mad Max Fury Road. Fury Road is well known for having a strong leading female cast, so much so that it actually outraged certain groups of men's rights activists. What a good cause, am I right, ladies? While Tom Hardy plays Max, the titular character, it seems clear that Charlize Theron's Imperator Furiosa is the lead, who reportedly has more screen time and lines than Hardy. Furiosa is a fantastic example of a strong female action hero. The only problem? She's hyper-masculinized. She's even more obviously coded as masculine when we continually juxtapose her to a Morton Joe's 5 wives, or breeders. You could even argue that the only reason Furiosa is a female at all is to serve as a plot device. In describing the storyline of Fury Road, George Miller said that Furiosa wasn't created with a feminist role in mind, but was made a female to avoid the idea of a man taking wives from another man.
The champion had to be a warrior, and if it was a male, it just wouldn't work. It would be one man stealing 5 wives from another man. It had to be a female warrior.
Now, it shouldn't need to be explained why making a female lead more masculine is problematic. But since you asked, associating masculinity with power and authority enforces misogynistic views.
That's my property!
And creates distance between the ideas of femininity and power. Some critics have even gone so far as to call it cinematic cross-dressing, declaring that the action heroine is just a sheep in wolf's clothing, rather than a legitimate role for women. This becomes even more problematic when we take it a step further. Some movies not only defeminize women, but they dehumanize them completely. We see this happen to its extremes in the movie Lucy. Lucy is introduced as a capable but carefree American girl living in Taiwan. Through some unfortunate accidents and brutal violence, her body absorbs a drug that enhances her brain capacity and gives her supernatural abilities. As the film progresses, she quickly becomes less and less human, and by the end of the movie, her human form literally ceases to exist. She becomes this weird shape-shifting supercomputer. Fury Road masculinizes the female hero, and Lucy is not only defeminized, but totally dehumanized. So it seems like the solution would be to just make the female characters more feminine, right? Ideally, yes, but for some reason, Hollywood has trouble pulling that off as well. Many female action heroes that are coded as being more innately feminine are still limited in their character attributes and portrayals on screen. One way this happens is by making the female heroes motivated strictly by maternal instincts. Let's move forward.
To knowledge.
Katniss Everdeen is the lead action hero in the Hunger Games film series, played by Jennifer Lawrence. Unlike Lucy, she's very in touch with her humanity. She's also not coded as being particularly masculine, nor is she overtly sexualized. So where's the flaw in the character? It's in her strictly maternal nature and motives. Most of Katniss's emotional responses and almost all of her character motives are based on this maternal nature that is part of her essence. In her cycle of the hero's journey, what takes her out of the status quo and sends her on her main adventure? It's her love, care, and sacrifice for her younger sister Prim.
I volunteer as tribute!
Throughout the series, we see her struggle as she nurtures and cares for literally anyone who enters her circle of influence. Prim, Rue, Peeta, Gale, you name it. This is even more obvious in action movies like Peppermint, where the lead, Riley North, goes on a justice-seeking criminal killing spree to avenge the deaths of her husband and young daughter. Now you might be thinking, why is this an issue? Having these empathetic attributes make a character more interesting, and they can actually be a stronger role model for people in general. I mean, is it so wrong to have a female character show empathy for people and embrace maternal qualities? Not necessarily, but it is a problem in the way that this is portrayed between males and females. In the movie Taken, for example, the action hero also has maternal instincts, or rather paternal ones. However, there's a key element in his storyline that makes all the difference. In Taken, the main character has a normal desk job and he's given up his action-filled lifestyle, but his character journey causes him to stray from that. His fight isn't just to save his daughter, it's also fighting against the idea of a normal working domestic lifestyle. Rikke Schubart, a Danish author and film scholar, describes the problem as well. The male action hero fights to return to a utopian never-never-land outside reality, and eventually a triumphant refusal to enter the symbolic. Female action heroines have a story of integration into society, a fight for life, family, even children. Her story is the very opposite of the male's, not a refusal of, but an entering into the symbolic. Basically, she argues that male action heroes fight against becoming a stereotypical symbol of domestic normalcy, where women fight to enter that stereotype. So where Taken has the hero escape his day job to fight bad guys, Peppermint expels Riley from the domestic lifestyle, and she fights only to get back to that sense of normalcy in her fight for her family. As for Katniss, why can't a woman fight just because she's a strong independent woman? Why do movies feel the need to staple female characters with essential maternal attributes? While many women do embrace the role and responsibilities of motherhood, it's important to note that this is not essential to being a strong feminine woman. Think of how much more interesting Katniss could be as a character if her choices weren't always caught between taking care of Peeta or doing literally anything else.
Why are you doing this?
See? Even Peeta gets it. Let's talk about Kill Bill to introduce a new topic. Uma Thurman's character, the bride, plays on the maternal stereotype, but in a contrasting way. She does seek revenge over a child who she believes was killed, but the movie paints her as less of a mourning mother and more of a vengeful assassin. Also, for much of the movie, the loss of her child plays second hand to the loss of a ruined wedding day and 4 years of her life being spent in a coma. Going back to Schubart's argument, her journey takes her away from the stereotypical domestic lifestyle, and she fights against any sense of quote-unquote normalcy. So have we finally made it? The bride, a character who's strong, feminine, less motivated by maternal qualities, and is a total badass? Is she finally the feminist hero we've been waiting for? Almost. The Kill Bills are great movies, but there's one minor error. Excluding Bill, who acts as a sort of final boss at the end of Volume 2, most of the major villains that the bride fights are females. There's Elle, O-Ren, and Vernita, who are also strong feminine characters. These fights are awesome, and while they're closely matched, the bride wins every time. The problem with Kill Bill is when the bride is faced with challenging Bud. Even though Vernita and O-Ren seem like much more capable and challenging threats to the bride, Bud is the only one who overpowers her. The fact that the bride is primarily pinned up against women, only to be overpowered at the encountering of her first male baddie, totally undermines her feminist strength. She's a strong and powerful female character in and of herself, but when she's put into the surroundings of the narrative, it limits her feminist potential. If you're still not with me that Kill Bill isn't a perfect example of a feminist film, let me remind you that it was directed by Quentin Tarantino and produced by Harvey Weinstein. Not to mention that scene with Buck that makes me cringe every time.
My name is Buck, and I'm here to...
No, thank you. Let's just move on. So what happens if a female action hero isn't masculine, isn't forced to have maternal attributes, and fights both men and women? If that's the case, then they're probably being turned into eye candy for the voyeuristic male gaze. The examples of this are way more than I'd like to admit. Charlie's Angels, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Alice from Resident Evil, Catwoman, Elektra, a majority of the X-Men females, Aeon Flux, Black Widow and Iron Man 2, Baby Doll from Sucker Punch, Ryan Stone and Gravity, Harley Quinn, Lorraine and Delphine from Atomic Blonde, Dominique Igorova from Red Sparrow, Gloria and Miss Bala, Charlie's Angels again. And that's not a complete list. These characters either adopt sensual attitudes or they're dressed in tight or revealing costumes, and most of the movies have lingering shots of their body rather than their face. Sexualization is bad, obviously. There's endless evidence out there on how it negatively affects people in general, but in my opinion, here are two of the most dangerous ones. Hypersexualized models of femininity in the media have been shown to affect the mental, emotional, and physical health of girls and women on a global scale. And objectification and sexualization of girls in the media is linked to violence against women and girls worldwide. Not only does sexualization have a negative impact on women, but it also happens much more frequently to girls in the movies than it does to guys.
It's kind of fucked up, man.
According to the 2016 report on the status of women and girls in California, women are nearly 3 times as likely as men to appear partially or fully nude in movies. Laura Mulvey, a British feminist film theorist, wrote that this masculine gaze of the camera forces female viewers to adopt either a narcissistic over-identification with women on the screen or a masochistic male point of view. Jessica Chastain has also spoken out against Hollywood for sexualizing female action stars. In one interview, she said, "The problem that studios have is that they try to make kick-ass women very sexualized. What's sexy about her is how capable she is." Now, there's nothing wrong with being strong and sexual, but they shouldn't have to be correspondent to each other.
That's what I'm talking about.
I hope I haven't ruined some of your favorite movies for you. Like I said before, I think Hollywood is trying to make changes in the right direction, and there have been strong examples of female action heroes in movies, they're just almost never the lead. But one recent Hollywood box office success pulled it off with flying colors. It gave us a female action hero who is inherently feminine, not limited to maternal emotions, fights men and women without discretion, and isn't overtly sexualized. And the best part, she's the lead character to the point where the title of the movie is her name. Have you guessed yet? I'll give you a hint, it's got a great theme song. Wonder Woman came out in 2017, and while it's not a perfect movie, it did great things for the female action lead, and it was incredibly successful. In the year of its release, it passed 2002's Spider-Man as the highest-grossing superhero origin film of all time, and it earned a total of over $820 million worldwide. While its financial success does help it stand out, it's how Wonder Woman is presented in the film that makes the biggest difference. Diana Prince is an excellent example of a cinematic action heroine. She stands for truth, compassion, and equality. She's innately strong and powerful, but she also fights for the little guy. She's just, well, wonderful. Wonder Woman is inherently feminine, both in appearance and attitudes, and she prides herself on being a woman. A majority of the film takes place in the early 1900s, when the patriarchy is thriving, which the film highlights often.
Who is this woman?
She's my, secretary.
But the parallels to modern day are still clear, and Diana's character does a great job of standing out against the inequality and oppression. Her femininity exceeds all limitations, and she stands out in obvious contrast to the men in the film. Wonder Woman also creates a great balance between being empathetic and excessively maternal. She has a strong relationship with her sisters and mother, and she does care for people in a very empathetic way. But the caring essence comes from a universal sense of compassion and love, instead of a limited nature of nurturing.
They're everything you say, but so much more.
Wonder Woman also fights a lot of men, like the entire German army. And even though one of the bigger villains in the movie was a female, it's Diana's final battle against the male Professor Ares that makes the most impact. And the best part, she beat him not with a special weapon to even the odds, not by tricking him, but through her own inner strength and power. Oh man, that's so sick. Finally, Wonder Woman is great because she isn't sexualized. She's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and she does play a romantic interest, but it's pure, and it doesn't leave her objectified in any way. A big reason for this is that it was directed by a woman, Patty Jenkins. After all, if it were directed by a man, we would probably see the Themysciran warriors wearing much less body armor, and we'd probably get obvious butt shots of Diana. But that would be a different movie entirely. Ahem. Again, Wonder Woman has some flaws, but overall, it provides a great example of a female action lead. And I think filmmakers should be taking notes. I don't think Wonder Woman was a one-off. I think that filmmakers can learn from it and make characters with similar attributes in leading roles in the future, and studios should take a chance on that, though $820 million doesn't sound like much of a risk to me. If movies presented more feminine leads with varying real character traits in an equal and non-voyeuristic way, it would be a great step on a larger road to change.
This is not what we came here to do.
Oh, and I don't think Wonder Woman was great for checking off all the boxes. But I think all the boxes were checked off, and that's what made it great.
No, but it's what I'm going to do.
What the bloody hell she playing at? Engage! Fire!
She's taking all the fire. Let's go!